Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Political Talks with JB. I am your host, Julian Boykin, and tonight I am joined by Dr. Carlos Walker, who is running for House District 97, representing the great state of Texas. Dr. Walker, thank you for joining me tonight.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, your educational background, professional background, and what led you to run for this particular position.
Okay, so a little bit about me as far as my educational background. I have a doctoral degree from the University of North Texas in educational leadership. I also have a master's degree in educational administration from the University of North Texas as well. I have a bachelor's degree from the from the University of Texas at Arlington, and that's in mathematics. And professionally, I work for the 4th ISD. I am a director. I climbed up the ladder. I started as a substitute teacher. I went from being a substitute to a teacher and a coach at Pascal High School, where I taught Algebra 1 and Algebra 2. And I also was the head boys track coach, and I was assistant football coach. And after that, I became an assistant principal at O.D. White High School in Fort Worth, ISD. And from there, I became a middle school principal at Morningside Middle School in Fort Worth ISD. Then I became a principal of Dunbar High School in Fort Worth ISD. And now for the last 9 years, I've been a director within Fort Worth ISD, the director of the Family Action Center.
Great. As it relates to economic development for District 97, what are your plans for that?
So my plans are really to focus on our small businesses. I believe that the small businesses are the engine to our economy. And so basically we have to invest in our small businesses, making sure that they have the tax breaks that they need, especially in our communities where we need a little bit more development. And so we want to make sure that we're working with the constituents in those areas to see what type of businesses that they would like to see in their areas as well. I definitely believe that as a politician, your job is to work for the people. You serve the people. And so my goal would be to go in and actually have focus groups in the different areas of 97 to make sure that I'm hearing the voice of the people that live there. So we're bringing in the type of businesses and supporting the business that they want to see there.
As it relates to the food insecurities that affect District 97, what are your plans to making sure that food insecurities don't go unnoticed? Making sure that that you are adhering to those food insecurities.
Correct. So the state of Texas ranks number 2 out of all 50 states when it comes to food insecurities. And so for me, that's an issue. I currently run a food pantry. It's the Stop 6 mobile food pantry. And when we first started this food pantry, we got this food from the from Tarrant County Area Food Bank for free. It was zero cost. Now our bill is up to $700 a month that we have to pay as far as to get the food from Tarrant Area Food Bank. And so that's a concern. I mean, if you go to the grocery stores, the prices of food is going up. I was reading an article that since COVID, the price of food has gone up by 17%. Also, when you start researching and looking at the producers as far as of our seeds, there are 4 major international producers when it comes to the seeds that we grow. And 3 of the 4 are actually pesticide companies. And so what they're doing is they're actually trying to fortify the seeds to be resistant to insects and all that type of stuff. And those seeds, when that food is grown, it's having an adverse effect on our bodies as well. And so those are some of the things that we want to bring to the attention of all Texans. And we need to start focusing on the agriculture here in Texas. I mean, we have enough land and we have enough farmers to where we can actually start growing locally. We also need to invest in our urban farms as far as within the city limits. So we can have basically people to start growing. We have to start teaching our kids about growing as well. Because right now you have too many people that are not, a lot of our kids don't even know where their food comes from. They just know they go to the grocery store and the food is there. There's an actual process of actually growing this food. And so when it comes to our food insecurities, we have to start educating our kids about agribusiness so they can learn, that this is a business, this is a profitable business. They can be entrepreneurs and they can actually take the opportunity to grow their own food. They can learn about the health benefits of the food and the nutrition of food, because now we have so much food that's coming from labs, okay? The lab meats that they're growing and all these different type of things. those things are not, they don't have the nutritional value that we need for our bodies. And so for me, it's important that we focus on the actual education of our kids to make sure that they understand as far as how to grow their own food and where their food comes from, and how to actually read labels and know the nutritional value of what they're eating. So for me, it goes back to education. I'm a 22-year veteran in education, and I believe that's the foundation of everything. So we have to make sure that our kids and the community is informed about what's going on, because most people don't know that we have such a large food insecurity in the state of Texas. So that is something that, you know, I plan on letting the voters know about and ringing the alarm as loud as I can about that.
Touched on education a little bit. As it relates to education, it's important, you know, for all states across the country. But what are your plans as far as making sure that students in District 97 receive a proper education?
So one, we have to go down there and fight for public education. For me, I'm a public teacher, public educator. Like I said, for the last 22 years, I've been in Fort Worth ISD. So our teachers, one, we have to make sure that we're taking care of our teachers. We have so you have teachers that will get into teaching, and within 3 years, they're exiting the profession. One, because of, say that again?
No, I'm saying, wow, that's
Oh,
a
yes.
fast turnaround for 3 years.
Yes. And so basically, we have to work on that. We have to make sure that our teachers are properly trained and equipped to deal with the things that they're dealing with in our classrooms. Teaching is not like it was back in the day. Now we've really put a lot on our teachers, and most educational programs are not preparing them for the things that they're experiencing in the classroom. So we have to do a better job of making sure our teachers are prepared. But not only that, we're raising the bottom line when it comes to starting pay. So now in our big districts, teachers are starting at about $60,000 a year. However, when you look at that and you see that after 30 years, some of these teachers are just making 75,000 after 30 years, starting at 60, making 75. That's not an incentive for teachers to stay in the classroom. So you have good teachers who are getting out of the classroom because they can't afford to stay in the classroom. You know, a lot of teachers are working second jobs and all those type of things. The healthcare benefits are not great for teachers. So we also need to look at that as well. But also when it comes to testing, we're testing our kids to death when it comes to this tax test, or excuse me, the STAR test. And so basically we need to look at how we can actually evaluate our schools with not just a one-day snapshot of STAR, because you know, you have kids that may have a bad day of testing come in. You have kids that have test anxiety. And so we have to look at a different system on how can we actually capture how good our kids are doing, you know, how they're growing without just a one day of testing. So we need to come up with some different metrics for that. And then we also need to make sure that we're focusing on basically making sure our schools are properly funded. So I did my dissertation on how do single gender schools affect the academic achievement of African American males. I was the principal at Dunbar High School in Fort Worth, Texas, which is not too far from Young Men's Leadership Academy in Fort Worth, Texas. Young Men's Leadership Academy is one of the top schools in the nation, okay? And when I took over as the principal of Dunbar High School, we were a low-performing campus. And we had this campus around the corner from us that was, like I said, an A-rated campus. The difference was parent involvement and teachers' expectations as far as the culture on the campus. So I am proud to say that when I was the principal of Dunbar High School, I took that campus from low performing to meeting standard with 2 distinctions within a 3-year period. You know, and we basically focused on getting our parents involved, making sure that they knew what was going on with their kids, what the expectations were. We also met our kids where they were, as far as when it comes to kids that were not on grade level. We provided tutors for those particular students to make sure that they were receiving the extra assistance that they needed in order to move them up as far as to see their academic growth. And so those are some of the things that we'll have to do in some of our schools. However, we also need to make sure that we're creating partnerships for our kids as well, because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that our kids can get a decent job or go off to school. And so, because every student is not going to go off to college, but they can actually go to learn a trade, and they can actually be prepared for the workforce. So we want to make sure that all our students and all of our students in our schools are ready for whatever after high school. If that makes sense.
Thank you. There is another topic that's plaguing Texas, and it's starting to pick up a lot of steam: the electrical grid. What is your plan as far as trying to, see that it does start to get going in the right direction, where it goes from just a concept and we having a meeting here, the meeting there, to actually it being funded and you start to see the construction being taken place.
So when it comes to the grid, the big deal right now is that we have an interest system as far as in the state of Texas, and you have companies that basically they don't want Texas connected to the actual federal grid because then it can become regulated. So that's really the main issue there. Those companies right now, they're not regulated, so they can charge whatever they want to charge as far as when it comes to our power here in Texas. And so basically, we have to write a bill to get bipartisan support because right now, as a Democrat, I'm running on the Democrat side. So as a Democrat, we don't actually have enough votes just flat out to basically pass a bill without bipartisan. So
Gotcha.
my goal would be to actually go to the House and make sure that we're all on the same page. Now, from what I'm hearing, the issue is the lobbyists. The lobbyists don't want this to happen. So basically, they are lobbying to kill these bills when they come up. So we have to make sure that we have people that are in place who are willing to carry this vote forward to make sure that we're putting people over politics and to get this vote carried out. And so that's the thing that I would like to do. Go down and work on a bipartisan bill to ensure that all Texans are always with the lights on.
Two more questions. Why should the people of House District 97 vote for you?
One, they should vote for me because I'm going to always put the people first as far as when it comes to my campaign and who I am. I believe that we have to put people over politics. We can't we can't work on a bipartisan. Everything just can't be just about politics. It can't be, I'm a Democrat, so I can't vote for anything that, even if it makes sense on the Republican side because I'm a Democrat, and vice versa. I can't, just because the Democrats came up with it as a Republican, I can't vote for that. That type of stuff has to stop. We have to put people first. We have to do what's best for American people first. And I'm a candidate that's willing to do that. I have an understanding of both sides. As of right now, my job, I'm the director of the Family Action Center in Fort ISD. And so I currently work for people that are in need of assistance. They need a hand up. So we help people with employment. I'm also at the table creating these partnerships with companies that actually have these jobs. So I understand both parts. I understand as far as the families that are in need, as well as the corporations that are actually hiring. And so my job now is to basically bridge that gap and get people from unemployed to employed and striving. And so I have done that. I've also worked on both sides of the aisle. If you look up Texas House Bill 557, that became about from a project that we did actually in the Stop Six community. So we held what we called a visioning workshop. And through that workshop, we actually asked people, how can we help you? As a school district, we know that we can't do this by ourselves. And so what came out of that was people said, you can help us by helping us get jobs. And you can also help us as far as getting our records cleared, because there's some of us that have things on our records that we were never convicted of, but they're still on our records. And so we hosted we hosted an expunction clinic. And so within that expunction clinic, I had to actually set that up. So I went to the local L. Clifford Davis Legal Association and asked if the attorneys would volunteer their time to work on this. And the attorneys said they would, but they would need the support of the district attorney. At the time, it was Sharon Wilson, who's a Republican. And so I called up Sharon Wilson and asked if we could meet with her to discuss it. We met with her, and she said that she would support it, but we would need the support of the commissioner's court. And so I called up Commissioner Roy Brooks, who's a Democrat, and got his support, and he took it to the commissioner's court. And we actually got the commissioner's court, which is a majority Republican court, to support it as well. And so from there, we held our first expunction clinic back in 2016, and we had over 1,000 people show up. So that definitely showed that there was a need. From there, what we found out was that it was a lot of people who had things on their records that they weren't convicted of, you know? And so this gave us an opportunity to continue that conversation of how does this happen? So basically, if you're not convicted of something, you still have further court proceedings as far as paperwork that you have to fill out in order to keep it from going on your record. Well, who was responsible for telling anybody that?
Correct.
Nobody was, you know? And so basically, we worked with State Senator Connie Burton at the time and State Representative Nicole Collier, who's actually still in office. And so both of them actually took that on. And we actually got the bill that was actually authored by Nicole Collier to be House Bill 557. And now there has to be someone to take you through those procedures when it happens. And so, like I said, I know how to work on both sides of the aisle. I know how to work grassroots as far as working in the community, talking and making sure that the people's voices are being heard and that legislation is passed based upon their input.
If people want to ask additional questions or make a donation to your campaign, how can they get in contact?
So they can go to my website. It's Dr. Carlos Walker for Texas.com, and that's FOR, Dr. Carlos Walker for Texas is spelled out.com, and they can actually find out more information about me as well as make a donation to my campaign, as well as there's a link to contact me as well if they want more information.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Carlos Walker, campaigning for House District 97. Dr. Walker, thank you for your time and best of luck to you in your campaign.
Thank you. I really appreciate this opportunity.